I'm really inspired by the people who fought really hard for the right to vote, and that empowers me now in this moment. This is
Ballot Box.
Ballot Box.
Ballot Box.
It's a contemporary art exhibit to look at past voting rights and where we are right now.
I think it really, really is important.
The city really got behind the idea and gave Ballot Box this space for the show. So we've got a diverse group of artists, from artists in their 20s to artists in their 60s.
It's visual and everybody can relate to it.
So engaging senses first and then sort of the content.
I think our country now is going through a lot of changes, and it's a time in our lives that we have a chance to actually make a difference.
One of the goals of this show is to create a conversation, to create a dialogue. What does a vote mean? What does voting mean? Why is it important? Is it important?
A lot of issues that maybe are too tough in the everyday, once you put it in art or something creative, it's suddenly something that people want to look at, something that they can process easier.
I really wanted to get a diverse voice on this issue of voting rights, specifically in this year, because it's an election year, because we have these commemorations for the suffrage. The artist Brianna Harlan really made this installation to share Mrs. Jones' story.
My Nana starts talking about, one voting experience that really stuck out to me was when I was denied the right to vote. And I was like, oh, tell me about that. He wanted her to perform, and he was making her perform in ways that I think are historically common, right? Sing and dance for us, and maybe we'll let you do what you want to do. She thinks it's like really cool that I take these issues and like make something creative and artistic out of them. This is never how she's thought about them. For her, it's like the fight, the struggle, the push for liberation, right? And so I'm like approaching it in this whole different way. I really like things that are active, like mediums that are active. So as people walk past them, maybe the shimmer of it hid something, so they moved to this side and now they see it. She actually had this experience directly and still continued to move in a way that knew her worth and knew that she had a role and a position and a duty as like a citizen and as a human being to continue to push her voice and the voice of the people around her. Me and my mom and my nana are in the third banner that kind of tells like who she is now. And that was important to include for me, to show that she's also a grandmother and a mother. She's a person,
You know, an artwork is successful if it slightly shifts perspectives within oneself, within a larger group.
We also have artwork by Jennifer Maravillas, very beautiful, very intricate maps that she's created that relate to the history of gerrymandering.
So after we take the census this year, basically they can redraw the district maps based on the numbers of people in each district. It's hard to talk about and it's very complex. So the US map is the 2018 congressional election results by county. So the blue obviously is Democrat and the red is Republican. The denser colors and the darker colors are higher number of votes, and then the lighter colors are fewer votes. It's sort of meant to convey the feeling of these maps that have been made by other people throughout time. It's very informative, but it's a little bit abstract in that people often don't even know the county name that they live in or what it physically looks like. One thing I do ask people to consider is, what other ways we could redraw maps. How could we create a system that is more fair for everyone?
Taylor Sanders showing two pieces. One of them is called Guessing Game, and it is a jar of gumballs. So I think that literacy tests were basically guessing games because they were just completely so hard to pass, and it was impossible for people to pass. Guessing game is more fun, so you just guess. Whoever gets closest will win the prize in that game, but in a literacy test, you don't get to vote. We decided to go big, so it's about 4 feet in height. They're just little bouncy balls, so I had to create my own jar. So I have another piece called Denied. It is a ghostly figure that is wearing an inmate uniform, displaying a I voted sticker, and it's redesigned to say I was denied the right to vote. So it takes the spotlight off of those who get to vote and instead onto those who cannot. People who were previously convicted, some can't vote. It's a lot to be able to integrate back into society. You basically just end up right back in the jail system because you can't become a full citizen the way you want to be.
I love oil paint. It makes the paintings come alive. Most of my paintings are portraits, of women, normally just everyday people, because they're the ones that make the world go around. I am so into politics now. Could be because I'm retired at home and I get to see the TV all the time. I did 3 pieces, and it's kind of like the history of African American voting rights in our country. First one is called Grandma's Vote. It has to do with the suppression and restrictions that, of course, was placed on African Americans, and the struggles that we had to just to go to the polls and vote. Some of the people in our neighborhood, when they would go out to vote, they put on their Sunday go to meeting clothes and kind of dress up, they had to look proper when you go out, and would go out and vote because it was a privilege. It was something that they had fought for, and it took years to get to that point. And so they wanted to make sure their vote counted. The middle painting, I call it I Vote. And that one is 50s, 60s, and 70s when we were out marching to vote. It's when we realized that the African American vote was very important. And it's a message to the politicians. You can't count on our vote, whether you're Republican or you're Democrat. And the last one, I call it Her Vote. It is a nod to the future. And I got this from my grandkids. They are very cynical. The figure has a look on her face where, as one of my grandkids would say, really? And she's holding a smart. They're depending on the people of the past to guide them, but you don't know what directions that the future is going to hold.
Rob has, the new video piece that he's created.
I teach photography and digital photography and video at the University of Kentucky. And I'm always encouraging students to get in with either the material they've photographed or video shot themselves, or pre-existing media, and change it or utilize it to use your message. So I find myself constantly practicing what I preach. This one is made completely from positive media, so that everything you see on one screen is going to be advertisements that say the best things about a candidate or the things they have done if they're running for re-election for governor, Senate, Congress. And then there's one that's going to be only attack media, negative media. I was alive during a lot of these candidates, so I recognized some of these commercial advertisements when I was finding them through archives. So I know it's impossible to completely eliminate that, but reducing it to the most minimal level. I'd rather be about the campaigns and about the media's use of those campaigns than about individual candidates, so that the public or the viewer can critique the campaign or the media's use of that campaign, or the campaign's use of the media, for that matter.
I can't sing about it, I can't make a speech about it, but I can paint about it.
They're all very personal, it feels, to kind of tell the story of our experiences with voting, understanding voting rights. And
it's healthy to have a discussion. We don't have to come up with answers. Maybe we can come up with more questions. Sometimes more meaningful than having an answer, because it shows that one is engaged and curious.
Like, this is not just, an art exhibition where people go and they look, they drink their wine and eat their cheese and they go home. It really is about thinking critically about these things and giving voice to aspects of this history that haven't had voice, or whose voices have been smothered or overlooked.